David Menzies went to, I think this is Toronto, and it's for a screening of a new David Chappelle film. Now, I can't remember the context of this. I think it's the film that he made following the Black Lives Matter protest that we were just talking about a couple minutes ago, and about the murder of George Floyd and stuff like this. And I guess that film that Chappelle has made is now going to be at these like several theaters across the world, kind of thing. Now, of course, we remember, I think everyone remembers because the whole internet fucking talked about it, was the fact that he produced this special called The Closer, which contained within it some really icky bits that went viral. For example, when he said that he was Team Turf and promoted J.K. Rowling to a certain extent, saying he was on her side. And a lot of people reacted to that, I think justly to a large extent, that was pretty transphobic and kind of crappy on Dave Chappelle. And we don't need to necessarily get into the details further beyond that. I know there's mixed opinion about the rest of the content in that video, but we don't necessarily need to get into any of that nitty gritty. But the point is, so that came out, there was an internet reaction to it, and then I guess at some sort of stand-up, Dave Chappelle went on a rant about how because of the drama surrounding his Netflix special, that people are trying to cancel the screening of the film that is being screened in what we're going to at the theater, which David Menzies is going to interview people out in front of. Now, it's clear to me that it wasn't canceled because it's being played at a theater in Toronto where David Menzies is coming around interviewing people. But the premise here, I guess, is like everyone's hyped on this idea that like cancel culture is coming for us all. We're all going to be canceled to the Canadian gulags. And that is sort of the premise of what we're going to see here. So I don't remember it getting too far into this sort of like Dave Chappelle nuance, but I guess I wanted to fill that in because it's going to be hanging in the background of this piece. But yeah, it's basically David Menzies talking to people outside of a theater. And I guess I should share it with the people who are listening to it on Discord here. So let me do that quickly. There we go. And now we're going to watch it. So let's see how it goes.
David Menzies for Rebel News here in Toronto, and Dave Chappelle is in town to screen his untitled documentary here at Scotiabank Arena, and lo and behold, members of the radical transgender community, they are not happy.
So radical transgender community, as opposed
radical
to the chill, like not radical, whatever trans community.
The trans are at it again.
I do like the words like radical and extreme because they sound like people who would like ride skateboards in like the 90s. Radical, man. Woo! We're so extreme. But it says Pride Toronto speaks out against MLSE for hosting Dave Chappelle's sold out show. So yeah, they're probably like, Dave Chappelle had this transphobic segment in his show, and therefore we don't like the fact that you're screening this thing. How radical. They made a statement.
Gasp.
The terrifying extreme radical writing campaign. Now if they were blowing up the theater,
Oh, jeez.
that's when it gets
yeah.
radical. we got to specify this on degrees, okay? Now I'm not recommending that. I'm just saying if you're gonna call it radical, let's have some like some fire, you know, some spunk.
I am recommending it, to be clear.
An empty theater though, right? Like let's like terms of service here, all right?
Just some property damage, that's all.
Yeah.
You know, it used to be
Property can't
that
vote.
when you
What's that? What was that, Elrond?
Not yet.
Nothing, not unsafe.
Property? Did you say property can't vote?
I did, yeah.
And Vieto Sedaya, so are you expecting the AI to vote at some point? Yeah.
No, I just think that landowners should be able to vote for the number of properties that they own. That's the reform that we need.
Oh, God.
No, please no.
Yeah, no, that's
Vieto's becoming a radical Elon Muskist.
exactly.
Fair enough.
Elon Musk can vote so many times.
I just realized that not only did Vieno tell me that they were drinking Coca-Cola before we went on stream tonight, but there is a Coca-Cola advertisement in the background right now. And I just have to state, in order for us to have a consistent show, that Pepsi is the official drink of the show. So this advertisement aside, this is the superior soft drink, okay?
It really is. This Coke is really disappointing.
It used to be that when you didn't like a performer, you changed the channel, but now that it's 2021, nothing short of an economic death sentence suffices. You may recall when Dave Chappelle's special on Netflix, The Closer, debuted, members of the transgender community lost their minds. Evidently, you're not allowed.
So what was Dave Chappelle addresses the Closer controversy, says he won't be bending to anyone's demands. So that's, yeah, that was the piece that I was saying when he did his stand-up thing. And apparently the trans community has lost their minds. What is the evidence for this? You know, like where's the losing of the mind? I'm pretty sure that it's like, Dave Chappelle said he is part of a team, and the team was Team TERF, and TERF is a hate group against our community. Is that losing your mind? Like, what if what if a white comedian was just like, I'm Team KKK? You know?
Apparently
and then
saying fuck TERFs is pretty radical.
Yeah. But like you know what I mean? Like if you say like I'm team some sort of like really bigoted group, and then the group that is affected by that bigoted group goes, I don't like that. And then it's like, they done gone lost their minds. They're losing their minds here. It seems like a pretty rational response to me. I don't know. I mean, there could be like irrational aspects on the edges or fringes of that, but I don't know. That seems pretty rational to me.
Lost their minds. Evidently, you're not allowed to make transgender jokes. Even though, I have to be honest, folks, when I watched the special, they weren't so much jokes as observations. I didn't find anything remotely offensive, but when it comes to the radical trans movement, well, I'll tell you something.
Oh, David, you didn't find anything offensive in that.
Well, yes,
Go back to that time where he
wore a dress.
put on a dress and wore a feathered headdress.
I mean, he's done so many offensive. I mean, he's the one who's done all the pieces on the protests outside of the women's prisons and stuff like this.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah, I think we just talked about it. I don't think I showed any of it. I mean, not to mention Rebel News produced the only book that they produced that was not written by their own employees was that, what was the name of it? I can't even remember it anymore. Unsports or Unsported or something. The one that was against trans people playing sports for the gender they identify as. So they produce this content, like that's the thing. But I do love, like, there's an element in which people respond to the Dave Chappelle thing by saying it's just jokes. It's just jokes. Just don't worry about it. It's just a bunch of jokes. Yeah, he just said he didn't even think they were jokes. They were just observations. They're not. It's not just jokes. It's just. He's just spitting facts. Facts aren't funny. He has repeatedly made claims that black people, himself included, are the most oppressed group on every metric, and that trans people are not. In his mind, all trans people are white, thereby erasing blacks. I don't think that's exactly what he's saying. I will push back against that a little bit. I do think that in his stand-up piece, though, he did ignore the black trans experience, for sure. And there's a lot of like YouTubers that you can watch who happen to be black and trans who have said some great things on this. I think oh shit, their name's Cat Black, who's a YouTuber, just released a video on this. I have not watched that one yet, but I'm sure it's really good. But yes, I think it's a bit more nuanced than that, but I don't know. To me, it's like even just all you have to do is focus on the fact that he says that he's Team Turf, and it's like that alone is just like, all right, not a good position to adopt.
Remember back in October 2019 when Meghan Murphy was at a Toronto library? They came out en masse to cancel her. Check it out.
Trans rights are human rights. We will not be
So radical.
We are not afraid.
Hate speech isn't free! Hate speech isn't free!
How can you claim that someone's transphobic for wanting to speak up about things like women being sexually assaulted in prisons?
Because if you make women are sexually assaulted by other women in prisons. The issue there is sexual assault in prisons, not the fact that it's done by trans or non-trans or like non-binary or whatever. So
like, even in male prisons, like that still have like sexual assault still happens in there. Like
It's
no one blames trans people for that.
it's an overwhelming, like, that was a sitcom joke for like a billion years. I don't know if I watch anything that comes out nowadays because who the fuck has like cable or like knows when things are new, but like you know, like that's been a joke about prisons forever, is just like the amount of sexual violence that occurs in them. And it's like, maybe the issue is prisons.
well, you notice as well, they never give any like statistics that will count towards like the prevalence to say that it's like statistically worse off in this particular demographic or anything like this. It's all just usually what they'll do is they'll go to specific examples of a particular trans person that did this and then go, see, when it's like, yeah, but are they doing it at the same rate as anyone else does? And then then the question is like, if we have a sexual assault problem in the prisons, shouldn't we want to fix that generally and not focus on something that is not like the piece of that's at issue, you know?
Also, guess who the like most common perpetrator of like sexual violence in prisons is? Guards. It's guards.
Yeah.
It's the ones that have complete power over the prisoners. Like,
yeah,
just
It's
total
another
lack of like introspection, I guess, or whatever the fuck.
it's like focusing on a niche, a non-issue, all because you're bigoted. Like that's really all this but boils down to. And of course, this is the thing that and let's be clear too, they're protesting Meghan Murphy. Meghan Murphy is a turf, a piece of shit who has said and done a lot of crappy things. So I think she's been completely banned off of Twitter for constantly misgendering and dead naming people and threatening them, basically, with her hate mob. So yeah, she's been deleted off the internet for the most part, I think, which is why you don't hear about her that often anymore. But it's also weird because she claims that she's a lefty. She just happens to be like against trans people for whatever reason. And yet she seems to only speak to people like Jordan Peterson and shit now. I wonder why. So there you go.
Or being sexually assaulted in homeless shelters. Like, how can you just try to shut people down and say, no, you're transphobic? Phobia is a fear, an irrational fear of something. We're not in fear.
Oh my God.
Well, the good news.
Jesus.
I just love that's always the go-to response for these people. I can't be Islamophobic. I can't be transphobic because
I'm not afraid of them.
These words, and it's like, yeah, nothing. Words have different meanings, and like the etymology of phobic can change given context.
Well, just the definition of like the phobic part is like it's a wide umbrella of like, yeah, there could be fear, and then there's also the fear-based hatred or hatred-based fear, like whichever way ends up manifesting, but that's part of it.
And yeah, but I mean, it's like anything. It's like when I say awesome, this pizza that I'm eating is awesome. I'm not literally filled with awe, you know? Maybe I am, depending on the pizza, okay? But not every...
Yeah, that's the thing too, is like awesome can denote whether it's good or bad. It just means it's amazing to a certain like degree,
well,
whether it's positive or negative.
What I'm trying to get at is like the heft of the term has been diluted over time. Or even like how words change, like when people go like, that's mad cool, bro. Like that's not what mad means, but like words get adopted in certain vernaculars. Like they shift over time. So it's like phobic got attached to the end of some of these things just because like it rolls off the tongue, you know, transphobic. But like it doesn't have to directly mean like, yeah. It's not like somebody is going to have a panic attack, like say you're an arachnophobe and a spider is in front of you, right? That's not what people mean when they say transphobia, right?
Yeah.
There is still an element of irrationality, which is like, yes, you're irrationally worried. Like even given the context that this person was just talking about was them having an irrational fear about like these supposed trans people that are lurking everywhere and causing all this like mishap. And it's like, so you're like worried and afraid of this stuff. So
that's the definition of a phobia.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh shit.
But yes, I mean, it doesn't necessarily like, yes, there are those elements, but it doesn't necessarily have to manifest it in the same way as people say might react if like they're afraid of heights or afraid of spiders or like whatever, right?
You're not gonna panic and run in the other way.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily how phobias manifest. Like phobias can manifest where it's like you hate, if you're fearful of something, you end up trying to destroy it, which is kind of what the whole transphobia thing is about.
Yep.
News is, despite that show of force, despite that trans
No Papers pizza is awesome.
tantrum, the library did not cancel the show. And hey, hats off to Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. They are having the show go on, even though there's been all kinds of pressure put on them to, yes, cancel Dave Chappelle. In any event, we're going to try to speak to some of the fans that are coming here.
Like, why would they cancel this? Like, sold out show at a huge like theater. Like, why would they cancel? Yeah,
they're not gonna really listen too much like for that end of it.
I mean, that was the other thing about the Dave Chappelle special. Like, I almost feel like the ire should have been driven more towards Netflix and how Netflix dealt with their employees who were angry with them.
It goes back to the money part.
Yes, it does. And it's without Papers Pizza, unless there is an additional place, Nom, that's called No Papers. But I will say No Papers is probably better because the without Papers Pizza looked terrible. And if you go into their location, you might get COVID, so.
I'll tell you this, folks. This show is SRO, sold right out, standing room only.
SRO?
And let's see what some of them have to say.
Oh, standing room only.
About Dave Chappelle and the attempt of
he is wearing the he's wearing a similar hat to the one in the emote. I guess it is different because it's a black hat as opposed to the white one.
Why is the cancel culture mob out to silence Dave Chappelle?
I don't see them. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know who those people are. I just think he's.
What did that person say? I don't see them.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know who those people are. I just think.
I wanna hear her response there.
Why is the cancel culture mob out to silence Dave Chappelle?
I don't see them. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know who those people are. I just think he's hilarious, and I'm here to support him.
This notion that somehow he's going to be silent. I'm pretty sure that Dave Chappelle could go stand in a field and be like, "I'm talking," and the people would gather and listen. You know? I don't think like he can be silenced in that respect. It's not like what is the cancel culture mob silencing? Like, is Dave Chappelle being sentenced to a gulag where he's going to be restricted from ever speaking ever again? I do not think
so. Just mainly seen like, hey, Dave Chappelle, please be a little introspective.
Yeah,
and maybe some boycott initiatives, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. But yeah,
the funny thing is, like, when we talk about the sort of like trans community on YouTube that I was referring to that has made videos about the special, of the like 4 or 5 that I have watched, none of them said that we need to silence Dave Chappelle, which is the funniest thing about it. Most of them said that the jokes came from a place of ignorance, and it would be much better if Dave actually took the time to understand what's going on here and to listen to black trans people. Those were like a majority of the criticisms, which is like a different thing than saying Dave Chappelle should never speak ever again, which I don't think I heard anyone say.
Well, duh. Obviously, being introspective and like understanding what you're trying to say as a public figure is something that equals canceling. Duh.
I mean, but that's what it is. It's always boils down to just like criticism equals canceling. This guy, though, look, he's ready to go. He's got energy. Okay, so
this is an unfortunate pause point, but let's go.
And a shame, and I don't know where these people come from. If you were born in Canada, you are not Canadian. That is anti-Canadian. It's anti-Western. I don't. Maybe you should be like me, travel the world, and go see what living under tyranny is truly like.
Are there some?
Okay.
Where are we gonna go? Tell me where to go. Where's he been?
Do we want to do like a history lesson to like show him how trans people have been put under the boot of different authoritarians in history?
Or even not authoritarian, like just living. But then there's just the point of like you went to tyrannies and like saw oppression. Like where did he go? I don't understand any of what he just said.
Inquiring minds must know.
Travel the world? How was that guy 30? Did he say he was 30? I don't even know how old that dude was, but
it looked a little older than 30, but yeah.
He looked older than me, and I'm 30. Yeah. 40, 50?
Yeah.
40, 50?
Like my young eyes, but he looked like 40, 50.
He's 40s, yeah.
I mean, 40 if he's a smoker. Probably something like that.
And go see what living under tyranny is truly like.
Are there some people, I guess, that are off limits to when it comes to the comedy business these days?
Yeah.
Well, before this guy answers this question, I also want to reflect on the fact that the other guy was like, "This is not Canada," and it's like we have hate speech laws in this country.
we have certain speech restrictions. If he's thinking about America, like that's where his reference is coming from. It's like. But even the states have had like restrictions too for hate speech rules.
I mean, they have certain restrictions. Ours are a little bit more robust and have been upheld by the Supreme Court. The funny thing is like my guess is that person's been completely polluted by Facebook or just the general media consumption that he has. But it's like, just all you have to do is read the case, which was Keegstra, the Canadian government versus Keegstra, or Alberta versus Keegstra. I can't remember what it is. I'm pretty sure it was Alberta, but it was Keegstra was a high school teacher who was teaching his students that the Holocaust was not real, and it went all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that you're allowed to pass a law suppressing that person's speech from promoting Holocaust denial in the classroom.
I need to read up on that one again. It's been a while since I read that one.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a huge case that like clarified and specified how the Oakes test applies to speech cases, and how in certain cases the restriction of your right to free speech is less harmful than the harm that somebody like Keegstra promoting this bullshit in the classroom to students is. So therefore, some cases of hate speech are allowed to be restricted in our country.
Yeah, it's whatever your position is, like if you have certain authority or certain reach or like public exposure, that sort of thing.
Exactly. So
random guy in the street can do whatever he wants, maybe get a few tomatoes thrown at him.
I mean, that's like the thing that a lot of people get confused with our law, because they think like even with the what was it, Bill C-16 that like Jordan Peterson lost his shit over, a lot of people assumed that what it was doing was mandating it so that like say if you just accidentally misgender someone out in the wilderness or something like this, that like the police were going to throw you in prison, when really all that it was like, if you're a landlord or an employer and you consistently harass, misgender, dead name, all that fun stuff maliciously over and over again to the point that it's harassment, it's considered harassment under our criminal code. And I think most of the like harms was like maybe a year in prison if you're like severe and like you don't pay your fines or whatever. But like,
yeah, like most of them are just fines.
Yeah,
really.
So but it's like, yes, anyone can be an asshole on the street, and there's going to be no, you're allowed to be an asshole. There's no law in Canada that's restricting you from being an asshole yet, you know. Yeah.
See, to be completely honest, I don't want to say something that's gonna come out to get me, so I'm gonna, I'm gonna stay away from this type of conversation.
Dave Chappelle gets to speak.
Oh, God. This guy's got some energy.
I love them.
Calm down. It's just a fucking 50-year-old comedian. Chill the fuck out.
Guess the rebels will get him riled up.
He's so angry.
I want to see the full like interview with this guy, like unedited, just to like see how it went.
What is it with people that need to like defend celebrities? Like they're making millions of dollars. Like they're clearly speaking. Calm the fuck down.
Well, what you're gonna see from this guy is that it's like self-reflective. Like he's worried about like what's coming for him. Like watch.
Dave Chappelle gets to speak. I, Jason Bard, get to speak.
Oh, we know his name.
You get to speak. We all get to speak. You don't have a right to cancel me. I don't have a right to cancel you. You see, this is how we get progress in life.
They're going after.
Well, like. Oh my God!
Wow.
I like
really spun that top. Holy shit.
I just how do you address that? It's like you don't have the right to cancel me. I don't have the right to cancel you. Okay, well no one has that like universal power. Like I don't go, you are canceled. It's like I criticize you, and then you're like, why are you trying to cancel me? And it's like, because I have the right to speak just like you have the right to have your bullshit.
It goes both ways, dude.
That's incredible. I always go get it.
He's touching on notes of like progress, where it's like, yeah, that is often how progress has played itself out, huh? Where it's just like, oh yeah, we're nebulously going towards the betterment of a society founded on like just horrific crimes, and it's like, who does that betterment affect? Etc., etc., etc. Why would you not want to critique it? Etc., etc., etc. Do you have some sort of, interest in maintaining systems as they are, perhaps?
That's the thing that's generally frustrating about it, though, is because there are aspects in our country, in our culture, where people are silenced for saying certain things. And some of them are ones that I would object to, like the fact that like a lot of Palestinian activism gets like suppressed, especially on university campuses. Even anti-abortion, not anti-abortion, pro-abortion, pro-choice activism on campus. A lot of the pro-life groups try to prevent pro-choice people from holding demonstrations or doing their work on campus. And these are real cases where speech is being suppressed and silenced. Yet, all that he's angry about and his objection to silencing has to do with just critique coming from masses of people commenting online, right? It's like it's so substanceless, but you can tell by the energy where he feels attacked by it, like he really is being silenced. But it's like what he's experiencing is not really, it's not real silencing. It's just masses of people thinking you're a piece of shit. Nora Loretto comes to mind. Mug of irony? In what sense? In that she's dogpiled? I don't want to read too much into it. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what part of what I said you're referring to. But I will await what you're going to say by hitting play here.
Dave Chappelle, no one's off limits. No one's safe, okay? Watch out, all right? If you're a comedian.
Okay, to the cancel culture mobsters and the people that support cancel culture, why? Why do you support that? What is your ultimate goal? To destroy speech? To have everyone walking around saying the same things? To have no individual thought any longer? Is that your end game? Is that what you want? To have everyone walking around in Canada? Hi.
I have to acknowledge he's grabbed the mic from Menzies. I mean, Menzies is still holding it.
Like, that expression on Menzies' face is like one of like awe almost. It's just kind of like, whoa, he's really doing it.
We found the perfect one, guys.
I know. I mean, like, you get that's why they keep coming back to this guy. That's like, we need the animated dude who's just lost his fucking mind. Everyone should speak. I should speak. I'm gonna say all the words I shouldn't be able to say. Here's every slur from A to Z.
Yeah, like I think this guy also like kind of like expresses kind of like the right wing sort of aggrievement where it's like I am being silenced while they're holding a microphone yelling into it.
Yeah,
like, you're not being silenced, dude. You got the stage. Like, we hear you.
And yes, I see that, Mug of Irony. Yes, I figured the context in which you were saying it was her response to the Humboldt thing, and how everyone just like lost their fucking minds on her. So yes, that does make sense. For those who don't know, I think, what did she say? She said something like hockey is misogynistic, or like there's a problem with hockey or something. I can't remember the context with it. In regards to culture. Yeah, and it had some connection with the accident that killed those Saskatchewan hockey players.
The accident.
I barely.
Saskatchewan. I think it was more. I thought it was more in the context of like her talking about how like racism played a role in the decisions like around like there were calls to like deport the dude and like everything like that because he was an immigrant.
Oh yeah.
Like,
but I thought like the dogpiling
was more the issue.
No, because I don't think a lot of people. I mean, she's been commenting about that today because I guess recently the guy who was driving the truck that caused the accident, he was in court trying to say that when he gets released from prison that he stays in Canada, and Nora was commenting about that. But I was pretty sure she said something about hockey itself, because like I remember a lot of the vitriol directed against her was the fact of like, how dare you slander hockey and say that it's like this or something. I mean, she could have got it from like everything, but like that's what I remember, but maybe I'm mixing up several stories in my head. But Prince Albert, yeah. Rebel News is like 50% boring local news station and 50% all gas, no breaks. It's pretty. What they have been since the fucking pandemic is a local news station or a local news channel, but the locality is every like anti-vax protest around the country.
Usually Toronto-centric.
Weird leap, but she's right though. I can't remember the context, so maybe I'm wrong. I should probably well, I mean, I could ask her directly about it, but I'm not going to right now. I can't remember exactly what the instigation was. I just have I don't feel like it was her just randomly saying that. I felt like it was in the context of something, but I could just be like missing something. I don't know. Prairie culture is fucked up about hockey. That is for sure. I mean, this guy's probably into hockey. Let's be real. He's wearing a sportswear t-shirt and he's got a hockey mullet on, I guess. Would you call that a hockey mullet? It's or at least a hockey hair.
The hat's kind of covering, like it's making it unsure to see what his full hairstyle is, but he's got the length for it.
Shanka Pablanka, thank you for the follow. I guess I didn't follow a ton of people earlier either, but thank you all for the following. I got like several follows in a row there. It was hard to keep up. So if I didn't thank you, I still love you. I don't care about the politics as long as you look like a A Viking. I'll keep watching. A Viking.
That's the beard.
All right. Sure. If the beard, maybe eventually the beard will persuade you on the politics. So there you go. This guy needs some propaganda. I will recommend the propaganda song, Dear Coach's Corner, is fucking incredible. Or is it I think it is Dear Coach's Corner, right? Or is it Dear Ron McClain? I know like the lyric goes, Dear Ron McClain. And for those who don't know, the sound clip that plays when you hear the like, are you kidding me? When you follow our Twitch, is the clip of David Menzies being arrested while trying to interview Ron McClain. So, so it's all connected. It's all connected. Hockey, Canada, it's all here.
The song is Dear Coach's Corner.
That's what I thought. Okay. Great tune.
Yeah, it starts off with Dear Ron McClain, Dear Coach's Corner.
Yeah. Such a good tune. Such a good tune.
And it's like, I'm going to know what you're going to say because we're only allowed to say certain things because once we cross the line, we get the cancel culture mob after us, right? We get canceled. And what do you want to do? Destroy me, destroy him, destroy anyone that has an idea that falls outside yours. Dave Chappelle gets to speak.
Yes. Like,
oh my God, I really want to know how, like, the full interview he had with this guy unedited, just how long he went.
But just take what he's saying literally, right? He's like, you're this mob, this amorphous mob that's out here. You're trying to cancel him over here. And yet he's like, he's yelling at someone out here and he's trying to get them to stop doing something. So is he not a cancel culture agent trying to cancel the people who are trying to cancel Dave Chappelle? Like,
you always try to do this thing. You always try to like showcase like the inherent hypocrisy in their logic, and they're just not going to pay attention.
Well,
they're not capable of understanding that level of irony.
No, this is more for people like Joe Capablanca, who's only watching me for the beard, right? Maybe the more passive listeners will pick up that like clearly one side of this is completely not correct and hypocritical. But generally, I agree with your point, Elron. We're not going to convince him, that's for damn sure.
I'm just thinking, this guy's so wound up, and it's like he's wanting to go at this like mob, but like, where's the mob? It's just the mob to see Chappelle right now. Like, that's all I'm seeing on the screen right now. What the hell?
No, I mean, like, and imagine being in that headspace. It's like, everyone's coming to get me. At any moment, I could say a racial slur and they'll be beating down my door.
I'm in a field in Saskatchewan, going back to that. Like, he's in the middle of nowhere, and he's like raving about people canceling him. It's like, okay, dude.
Yeah.
I, Jason Bard, get to speak. You get to speak. We all get to speak. You don't have a right to cancel me. I don't have a right to cancel you.
Did it repeat itself?
This is how we get progress in life.
I think if there's anything worse than censorship, it's self-censorship.
For sure. No, I completely agree with that. And at the end of the day, you can't make every single person happy. Yeah. You know, with every decision I've ever made, there's always been someone that's like upset about it. So like, at the end of the day, I don't know. I don't really know what to say.
So that person, that person's answer doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But I do love when like David Menzies brought up self-censorship and it being like the worst thing, and that dude's like, I agree. How is self-censorship the worst thing? Like, I'm sorry, some self-censoring is good. You know?
No, that's fascism if you self-censor.
It's like,
how often does he say the N-word?
Exactly. I mean, like, if I can't say the N-word, that's fascist.
I mean, sometimes it's like there's subtle, like even putting it in the more benign cases of like subtle cultural instances of like, maybe like you don't say every thought that crosses your mind to other people because you know if you were to utter that thing out loud, you might hurt their feelings. Is that self-censorship and therefore bad? Or is it just like, it's not worth it to bring this up and I'm going to, you know, not stir the shit by saying this person has a zit on their face or something, like, you know, something so inconsequential, right? And so you self-censor and you don't just point something like that out in order to, like, not be, like, rude to them. Is that, like, has society now collapsed? Is it all over just because of that happening?
Common decency is tyranny. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Global Freedom Index is now judging by the amount of N-words said in a country. Yeah, how many slurs are allowed to be uttered without, but like they have to compare it to like the uproar that like a slur causes, because it can't be just about like government suppression here. It has to be the like amorphous mob out there that is going to like cancel you. So somehow they have to do a comparison by the amount you're allowed to say and the reaction that it would get if you say it. And that's how we assess the freedom of a country. And of course, it's the American Enterprise Institute that's going to run that study and analysis.
Yeah, why? Like, do you want me living on the street, homeless, having no way to make money? Like, is that what you want from people that disagree with you?
What Dave's trying to...
Is that ever going to happen to Dave Chappelle? I mean, granted... Granted, it could happen to someone like him, maybe, if he's in the working class demographic or lower income bracket. But it could also just be that, like, you know, that's never going to happen. Or here's the thing is, if he goes to work and starts harassing his fellow employees and loses his job, he probably deserves to lose his job in that case, you know? You know?
I was gonna say, it's like if you got like a coworker going off like racial epithets at work, it's like they're likely to get fired.
Right. And so it's like, here's a better idea. Don't be a transphobic, racist, bigoted piece of shit, and maybe you won't lose your job. Who would have known that it would be this easy to keep your job? Just don't be a bigot.
What to do is he's talking about it because there's a conversation to be had, and if people are getting mad, then that means there's a conversation. He invites the controversy, but he doesn't think there's a need to be canceled for it. You know, let's take it to the extreme.
People are mad just because I'm saying like the things that need to be said, you know? The response, I'm getting an angry response because I'm right. I hate that kind of response. Because then, it's the easiest like self-defense mechanism from any criticism. It's like they're just mad because I'm right. It's like, I don't know. That's not generally how these things work. Look at how canceled Dave Chappelle is, by the way. Look at the canceling. All these people came out to like come see this thing.
Oh, that's the lineup to see him canceled.
Yeah. Somebody gets in there. Wait. This isn't, we're not all here for the silencing? I gotta go.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
This ain't fun no more.
Wait, he's speaking? They're actually gonna play it with volume? I thought we were silencing him.
Fun.
So, folks, if you think I'm exaggerating about how the COVID protocols in terms of the vaccine passports is making life miserable, it is now 7:30. There are hundreds of people inside Scotiabank Arena waiting to get out. There are actually a couple of thousand outside. Dave Chappelle.
So it's like he's making an argument that like somehow the COVID protocols have slowed things down? I mean,
I'm not gonna lie, my time like going to that center, it's like usually it's a big zoo, so this looked pretty organized.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been to several concerts where like you're standing in a line for a long time because they got to pat everyone down as you're going into the arena. But isn't, you know?
Oh yeah, that too. Yeah.
As I say that as well, like isn't patting someone down like against their freedom to bring sharp objects into to a theater?
against their freedom to bring all the snacks in there.
Yeah.
Is here today. Yeah. And he's made observations, jokes that has offended some in the radical transgender community, and they want him canceled. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think he screwed up big time, and
wait, what?
This is ridiculous.
Oh, so Dave Chappelle screwed up big time by making...
Oh, yeah. Well, why would you say that shit, man? Like, I know everybody on the street, and I'm not gonna put down nobody.
I think
fucking
hell yeah,
based.
All right.
I was gonna say I judge that person based on his looks. I did not expect it.
Fucking wrong.
No, I'm surprised they kept that in there. Like Rebel edited that. That's what surprised me. It's like they're usually gonna put something supportive.
They have to keep one thing in there so that they can pretend they're balanced.
Yeah,
like, fair. You got Jody, you can't judge a book by its cover. Those people that that's a salt of the earth person right there. That's someone that's walked many miles and seen many people, and they're like, you know what? We all gotta live. I respect those people.
Yeah.
Hats off to them.
I wonder if he's still if he's actually going to the venue or if he was like a random person outside. You know, it would be interesting if he actually paid tickets to come see this, but he's still like, yeah, but it was still fucked up what Dave said. Like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this thing, but still, that was fucked up. You know what I mean? Which is like, I kind of have respect for that. It's just, I wonder, where he is on the spectrum, or if he just happens to be standing around. It's just a random dude.
I think it's all silly.
Well, I'm not following it too closely. Like, it's comedy. I watch the shows. They're not offensive as far as I'm concerned.
Did you see his last show, sir?
Of course, I've seen every one of Chappelle's show.
Did you see anything remotely offensive in that last show? Because
it's not a comedy show.
Okay, then. And even if comedy is offensive, does anyone really have a right not to be offended?
No, freedom of speech.
Well, he's speaking of his own personal...
Yeah, comedy can offend too, but also it's like if it's punching down, then it kind of goes back on being comedy.
Well, you don't have a right to not be offended, right? Like, I can agree with that. I mean, I find Rebel News offensive. Well, I want Rebel News to go away, so maybe that example doesn't work. Everybody Loves Raymond, I find pretty offensive. But I still think it should get played on TV, okay? Like, if people want to watch it, people are going to watch Everybody Loves Raymond. I just personally find it offensive, you know? And it's like, sure, like, but like, no one is complaining about, like, things can be offensive. Like, no one is saying ban all offensive things. It's more just like, again, criticism. It's just criticism. Jesus Christ. Lenny Bruce died for their freedom of speech. I mean, even the fucking people that Lenny Bruce inspired, that like George Carlin, like, you listen to that, like, Carlin there's the one clip I love of him on Larry King Live talking about, I always forget his name. He was the guy from the 90s who just had a bunch of, like, a routine where, like, he put on the act of being kind of like a bigot, but it was always hard to, like, tell the difference between, like, whether it was or it wasn't like a real, like, act. Andrew Dice Clay, thank you. And so George Carlin in that, like, piece is like, was saying, like, that he has a right to do that stand-up. Like, of course, like, George Carlin isn't going to say that he can't speak it, but just saying, like, why do it? Especially because it's like, why hurt on, like, the marginalized class? Why would you want to punch down like that? Like, even George Carlin had that language of, like, punching down, you know? It's like, why would you want to do that? Carlin was like, yo, he's Jewish, he's playing with fire. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, exactly. It's which is the thing. It's like, I even feel like Dave Chappelle gets that to a certain extent. And, like, that was the one thing that I respected about Dave Chappelle for the longest time. Given his decision to leave the money behind for the Dave Chappelle show, and when he fled. And I think, like, his discourse around that made a ton of sense. I honestly, my main takeaway from this is just, like, he just there's a block, and there's a refusal of him to understand trans people and the trans community. What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? But like, again, as I said already, that most of the trans people that I've seen that have actually produced content criticizing Dave Chappelle, most of them are just like, we wish that he spent a little bit more time understanding. They're just trying to silence him.
Experience in a comedy format. I don't think he's political in that sense. So, and his views, he has friends of all
yes,
sorts,
he's apolitical.
So.
Everyone's apolitical.
Oh my God.
Well, folks, as you can see, as the night gets later, still so many hundreds of people waiting to get in. That's the new reality when it comes to the Vax Pass. But a couple of sad observations. One is, we were going around prior to people getting in line to get into the Dave Chappelle show. You would think that Dave Chappelle fans would be full of bluster when it comes to taking a stand against the cancel culture.
Those people clearly don't want to talk to him.
Many people.
Yeah. Why would they add? Why would they keep that
Oh my
clip?
God. I'm positive that people know Rebel News in Toronto. Like, come on.
Why would you have this as your establishing shot while you're doing your monologue? Here, watch me harass. Watch me harass these people.
Against
like, nah,
the cancel culture mobsters, but no, so many people said to me, "Listen, we love Chappelle, we love Rebel News, but I can't come on camera because I run a business." And I don't want to be segregated. I don't want to be pointed out by the cancel culture mob and have my livelihood destroyed.
Oh, it's amazing.
Such is the sad, sad reality of 2021. And although we did...
Can you, like, how fucking lame do you have to be? I mean, here's the thing. It would be one thing if these are people just making excuses because they don't want to talk to fucking David Menzies. Fully understand that. Cool, make up whatever excuse you want to. But for those who are sincerely saying, like, oh, I don't want to speak on camera because I'm afraid the cancel culture mob is going to get me. It's like, stop being a coward or change your views. Stop being a coward so we can know who you are, because we should cancel you if you're a fucking bigot. I wouldn't talk to anyone in that hat count. Great hat coat combo. Yeah, neither would I. Aaron Rabinowitz.
Like, oh, sorry.
Aaron Rabinowitz of the Embrace the Void podcast did a very good and intelligent critique of trans issues with Chappelle, worthy of your time. Yeah, I'll check it out. I don't mind them. For if you want a deep cut, a mug of irony, I was on the Embrace the Void podcast way before I had my own podcast to discuss Daniel Dennett. So if you go through their archive, search Daniel Dennett or Free Will. I think it was on Free Will and Luck, and you'll find me. I was on their show. It was fun. He does cosplay as Inspector Gadget. This is, I think, it would be amazing if, like, the microphone was attached to, like, a spring in his thing. He hits a button and the microphone pops out. Amazing.
Boing.
Yeah.
Didn't encounter any protesters as part of the Spirit Unicorn community.
Spirit
Toronto
Unicorn community.
A release condemning the Dave Chappelle show here in Toronto.
Pride Toronto. Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, it's like, if I knew that Menzies was gonna be interviewing this thing, I would have went to the event and told him to go fuck himself.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Pride Toronto is deeply disappointed in Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment's decision to provide the Scotiabank Arena platform to Dave Chappelle today following his transphobic tirade during his recent released Netflix special. The organization wrote this morning. Oh my god, like, listen to how terrifying that is.
They were disappointed, so they're going to send their angry mob.
I didn't realize I didn't realize expressing disappointment is now cancel culture. I didn't realize. Maybe we need to up our game here.
Saying about definitions earlier about phobia, maybe disappointment to the rebel is an angry mob.
Yeah. And again, you would think that if there was a legit angry mob, you would see them. I mean, isn't it amazing that, like, when Megan Murphy was giving a talk, the crowd existed there at this library, and it wasn't just Megan Murphy. I think it was a panel discussion with like Anna Katz or something. I can't remember her name. She was also a Rebel employee for a while, but it was a bunch of people who all are terribly bigoted and have done, I would dare I say, have done more than Dave Chappelle in terms of transphobia, except that Dave Chappelle has a larger platform, obviously.
Yeah, it's kind of a matter of scale too, but yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very funny, isn't it, folks? It's perversely ironic to me that the LGBT community for decades has asked for more acceptance, more tolerance. And yet when you have Mr. Chappelle make jokes or makes even observations about certain members of that community, there is no tolerance, there is no acceptance. He should be canceled. He should be given an economic death sentence. I guess when it comes to the alphabet soup community, or at least the radical elements of it, acceptance and tolerance in 2021 is a one-way street. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies.
It's like, watch as I belittle and insult this community and complain.
It's like that too. It's like scratch back 10 years, like, or whatever it was. We had the other episode we went over. He's like wearing the dress and the headpiece, like we mentioned, and it's like, you're still doing it, dude. You're still being that asshole. This is what people are trying to like correct, like not correct violently, just correct. Like, hey, please don't be a dick about it.
Yeah,
and you're being a dick about it still. Ugh.
What was like? Again, I want to say it wasn't just. There was things I think that people were saying that I didn't necessarily agree that were transphobic or whatever. Like, you could have, I even saw some people in the trans community have disagreements over various aspects, and I'm not going to get into that. But the one thing that I don't think that there is any disagreement that was shitty for Dave Chappelle to say was he clearly said that he was Team TERF. Team TERF, okay? And not only did he say that, there was dead fucking silence in that special. No one laughed at that line. No one clapped. Yeah. No one applauded. It landed to dead fucking silence. Because it would be the equivalence of, like, again, somebody standing up there and saying, I'm Team KKK or Nazi or whatever you want to follow that up with. That's what it would be like. And that's not funny. That's just saying, I'm now on the side of the bigots.
That's, yeah, it's like to use the term TERF in that way denotes that he knows what it means. He knows the baggage it has behind it, and he should know that being in such basically demeans and like disrespects and like belittles and all the other words I could describe of like saying like fuck trans people. It's like that's where he's basically saying he stands on.
And so it's like, for them, like, for one to say, like, play it off as, like, just jokes, and then be like, oh, they're getting just upset at jokes. That part, like, was that part a joke?
Serious.
No.
He was serious there.
Yeah. The audience took him as being serious, too. They didn't laugh at it, you know?
Well, yeah, even then, too, it's like, if you're a comedian and you get, like, no response, including booing, that's, like, the worst response you could get when everyone goes silent.
Well... Not necessarily. I mean, like, here's the thing is, it depends on how it's utilized and what the effect is. Like,
oh, yeah, okay.
For example, like, and oddly enough, like, Dave Chappelle, when he was like, they showed earlier when he did the sort of, like, speech of him he's not going to kowtow to their demands and stuff like this. At one point, he's like, here's the 3 things that they need to do before I speak to the trans community, as if the trans community is like a thing that he can like sit with, you know? And one of the things that he said that they had to do was say that Hannah Gadsby is not funny. Okay? Which is kind of fucked up for him to say something like that anyways. But the reason why he brings up Hannah Gadsby is because she did a special called Nanette that a lot of people criticized because they said like it wasn't comedy or some fucking thing like this. Now, part of her routine was to break down how comedy can like fuck with things, even her own self-reflection about her own experience. and how like comedy can have these more like nefarious effects. And as like, I guess, spoiler alert, it's been a show that's been out for a long time. So if you haven't seen Nanette, I do recommend it. Unlike Dave Chappelle, I thought it was very both funny and depressing all in one, which is beautiful. But there's a moment where she's very open about the sexual assault that she experienced. And it creates a silence in the room. And it comes like she very elegantly plays with the tension between like the jokes that she's making and the weight and severity of that moment. And at no point when it hits that moment and like the feel of the room changes, did I think that she did something bad when that happened? You know what I mean? But like when that happened with Chappelle in this moment, because here's the thing is, for Chappelle to be saying Hannah Gadsby isn't funny, his most recent stand-up felt that way to me, especially when he had the bit about a trans colleague of his who ended up committing suicide. It had the same effect. And then it's like, you're doing the same material. If anything, you're ripping off Hannah Gadsby when you did that bit. But it's like, at that moment, that weight had effect. And I thought the story was touching in a way, even though some people have criticized the accuracy of it, and I don't need to get into that. But like, that moment's fine. But when he said the Team Turf thing, I don't think the weight in the room was the result of like whoa, like that was an emotional moment. It was more of like, that was an awkward thing to say.
Shock in how like horrible it was.
Yeah.
Hello, my rebels. Hello, my rebels. I'm a good boy. I'm a weirdo.